Hello again. The Royal Navy will soon take delivery of a new attack submarine. It was originally to have been named HMS Agincourt, but it has lately been announced that there is a change of plan and that it will instead be called HMS Achilles. The French, it seems, might not wish to be reminded of the outcome of the Battle of Agincourt. This is indicative of all that is wrong with this country today. Once, not so very long ago, children in Britain were taught about Agincourt. They learned about it at school. They were taught about Agincourt, Trafalgar and Waterloo, and encouraged to feel pride in such victories. There was even Trafalgar Day, when Nelson's victory was celebrated on October the 21st. Heaven forbid that we should let our youngsters feel proud of their country's achievements on the battlefield these days. What was the significance of Agincourt, and why did we make sure that our children learned about the battle? It's woven into the very fabric of our history, being evoked during both the First and Second World Wars. The Battle of Agincourt, in which a smaller English force won a decisive victory against the French army during the 100 Years' War, cast a very long shadow, one which reaches across the centuries. Shakespeare's version of events, which is how we chiefly know of this incident, in a long and protracted war, was manipulated to great effect during the Second World War. In 1940, Winston Churchill made conscious reference to Henry V's speech before the battle, which is of course found in the play Henry V. The line Shakespeare gave the king, "We few, we happy few," was the basis for Churchill's reference to the RAF, that never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. The fighter pilots who took part in the Battle of Britain became known in later years as the Few. Nor was this the only way in which Agincourt entered the public consciousness at that time. In 1944, towards the end of the war, as Britain was about to embark upon the invasion of Europe, it was felt that a boost for morale wouldn't come amiss. The British government accordingly helped to finance a spectacular Technicolor film version of Henry V, starring Laurence Olivier in the title role. The film shamelessly evoked the spirit of Agincourt and was dedicated to the commandos and airborne troops of Great Britain, the spirit of whose ancestors it has humbly been attempted to recapture. The spirit of Agincourt was also, of course, famously summoned up during the First World War as well. It is a curious fact that a number of seminal events in British history have taken place within a few miles of each other in an unremarkable area of agricultural land in northern France and Belgium. Agincourt, Waterloo, and the great battles of the First World War all occurred here. In the late August of 1914, the first major engagement of the First World War between the British Expeditionary Force and the German Army took place at Mons in Belgium. Although they fought well, the British were forced to retreat. A month later, the British author Arthur Machen published a short story in the London Evening News. It was called The Bowmen, and told the story of how a British soldier at the Battle of Mons had called upon St. George and found his unit being protected by phantom archers, the ghost of the British bowmen from Agincourt. Machen's story was a convincing first-person account, and readers began writing to the Evening News, asking for further details of this miraculous intervention. In vain did Arthur Machen explain that the whole thing was fiction and that he had invented it. By the following spring, Machen's bowmen had undergone a transformation and were now angelic figures, indicative of the fact that Britain's actions in continental Europe were receiving divine support. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of interest in angels, especially in the United States, and the angels of Mons have been cited in support of the idea that angels have been documented as involving themselves in human affairs. As I said, the Battle of Agincourt casts a very long shadow indeed. It is for this reason, because it is so inextricably bound up with both the First and Second World Wars, that Agincourt became so important in our history. And in the post-war years, the story of the Battle of Agincourt was drummed into school children. Agincourt works so well upon the English psyche because it evokes two of the nation's most powerful and stirring mythic ideas. One reason that the Battle of Agincourt resonates over the years is that it reminds us of the English going over to Europe and sorting things out for them. We remember the Battle of Waterloo and also the invasion of Europe in 1944. On both occasions, we in this country had to cross the Channel and show the countries of mainland Europe, principally Germany and France, how they should be conducting their affairs. Agincourt is the earliest narrative illustrating this appealing idea. Then too, the 100 Years' War, of which the Battle of Agincourt was a part, marks the birth of Britain's identity as an island nation. Until that time, England had been an integral part of Europe, with the rulers of the country and their barons holding extensive lands in France. Indeed, some kings of England spent more time in France than they did in this country. The end of the 100 Years' War brought all that to a close. Although England retained Calais, it was agreed that whatever the nominal situation might be, in fact France was no longer under English control. From now on, the English were geographically and nationally separate from Europe. This kind of thing, patriotism and reveling in the achievements of our own nation, are out of fashion these days. This explains why our new submarine will not be called Agincourt. One can quite imagine some Labour apparatchik catching sight of the name on the document and declaring, "That's not at all the kind of thing we want to see these days. What about some neutral name from Greek mythology? How about Achilles instead?" In the description to this video, I give a link to a news item about this,